Hello students, welcome to another lecture of human anatomy and physiology, and in today's lecture we will be discussing about the process of blood coagulation or the process of blood clotting. So let's start. So talking about coagulation, or in common terms it is termed as blood clotting, it is a very complex process by which a blood clot is formed, right? Now the formation of a clot mainly occurs through a positive feedback system. Now clotting is a very sequential process that involves the interaction of various clotting factors, right, or the coagulation factors. Now there are 12 principal clotting factors and they are represented in Roman numeral from 1 to 13, right. Now there are two pathways which are involved in the blood coagulation process. The first is your intrinsic pathway and the second is your extrinsic pathway, right. And both the pathways, they basically result in the production of factor 10, right. The activation of this factor, it makes the beginning of the common pathway of coagulation, which further results in the formation of blood clot. Now talking about the extrinsic pathway is the first pathway which is activated in the process of coagulation, and it basically is stimulated in response to tissue factor, which is a protein and which is mainly expressed by cells that are normally found external to the blood vessels, right. Now when a blood vessel breaks and these cells come in contact with the blood, tissue factor activates factor 7, forming factor 7A, which triggers a cascade of reaction that further results in the production of factor 10. Now in the intrinsic pathway, what happens? This particular pathway is activated by injury that occurs within a blood vessel. Extrinsic pathway is activated when an external damage happens, and intrinsic pathway is activated when a blood vessel is damaged from within, right. This pathway, it begins with the activation of factor 12, which occurs when blood circulates over injured internal surface of your vessel. Components of intrinsic pathway, they may be activated by extrinsic pathway, right. There are many factors which are activated at this particular point of time, and such cross activation, they amplify the process of coagulation. Now the production of factor 10, it results in the cleavage of prothrombin to thrombin. Thrombin, further it catalyzes the conversion of fibrinogen to fibrin. Then this fibrin is a thread-like mesh that traps the platelets, blood cells and plasma, and within a few minutes what happens? The fibrin meshwork, it begins to contract, squeezing out its fluid. Now these are the different clotting factors or the coagulation factors, right. The factor 1 is termed as fibrinogen, factor 2 prothrombin, factor 3 tissue factor, factor 4 calcium, factor 5 labile factor, factor 7 stable factor, factor 8 is AHG, then factor 9 is your Christmas factor, factor 10 is Trott-Parr factor, factor 11 is your plasma thromboplastin antecedent, factor 12 is your Hagman factor, and factor 13 is your fibrin stabilizing factor. Now this is basically the stage of your blood coagulation. The first activation happens in your extrinsic pathway and the second activation happens in your intrinsic pathway. Both these paths, they activate the prothrombin activator, as a result of which prothrombin is converted into thrombin. Thrombin further acts on fibrinogen and converts it into fibrin. Fibrin is a thread-like mesh, and after the formation of fibrin clot is formed, and which further results in your blood clot, which facilitates in stopping the bleeding. So thank you so much students, this was all in today's lecture. I hope you understood the mechanism of blood coagulation well. If you have any queries, any doubt in today's lecture, please feel free to reach out to me. Thank you.